So I'm here at the Coalition to End Sexual Exploitation Summit with the UN Special Rapporteur on Violence Against Women and Girls, Reem Alsalem. Reem, I wanted to ask you about your remarkable report on prostitution, in which you said that prostitution must be recognised urgently as a system of violence, exploitation and abuse. How did you arrive at this conclusion?
I arrived at it by the information I received following a lot of consultations. This is exactly what it is. It results in egregious human rights violations, the most fundamental human rights of women and girls, who are the majority of the survivors or victims of this abusive and exploitative system. And it is also very much based on a sexist, discriminatory and violent approach to women and girls based on their sex and based on gender. And we don't really think of it like this because, of course, prostituted women and girls are isolated. They're not really visible in society. And there's a tendency to try to push this as a, just work or something that women do voluntarily. And you also realize that it's a system that takes advantage and capitalizes on the suffering of women and girls that come already from very difficult backgrounds. They already suffer structural discrimination, either because they belong to minority groups or because of their race, their skin color, their religion. They're already marginalized. Many of them have very difficult childhoods, come from difficult backgrounds, poverty, or countries that are in conflict, or poorer countries, and this system takes advantage of these realities. So it's not a coincidence, actually. It's
Deliberate.
It's very deliberate. Yeah.
You said yesterday at the summit here in Washington, D.C. that before you worked on this report, you were relatively neutral about the issue. You didn't really have a position.
Yes.
What was it that really shifted for you? Was there something that particularly stood out for you as you were working on this report that really shifted your thinking?
So look, as to why I selected this topic, I try as a mandate holder to address contemporary and also emerging issues, meaning that issues that present very complex human rights aspects and where I feel I could contribute to the conversation by doing a more comprehensive analysis, using my expertise. And I'm in reasonably good touch with feminist organizations, women human rights defenders around the world. And I was hearing from them that right now there's a lot of thinking about what is the best way to deal with prostitution, not just at an individual level or societal level, but also as a policy by states. Because states have different approaches, they have different models, and there's a lot of discussion about how do they work, do they not work? And so it was actually suggestions from women and women organizations that it would be very, very good to have a comprehensive analysis from a human rights perspective, because we don't have that yet. We've never had that kind of report, including by the UN. So it was a response, therefore, to what the masses identified as a need.
You spoke to survivors as well. How did their stories impact you?
So look, I mean, I've in the past obviously come across women in prostitution, but what was different about this report is obviously that I deliberately engaged them in the consultation. So we organized consultations with just survivors. I also read a lot of testimonies that came from individual survivors who wanted to absolutely share their experience. And I think you know this on a sort of abstract level, but I was so taken aback by their testimonies, by the immensity of suffering they have endured. I kept thinking to myself, how is it possible that this is happening, and that we as a society and as actors on human rights have never really taken taken the time to come to terms with that we are allowing this, and that we don't even hear more from survivors or listen to them or platform them or give them space. I was also very humbled, and I get emotional when I remember that, because I was very humbled by the fact that they wanted to share, even though it brings back trauma, and many of them struggled even while they were talking, but they realized the importance of the moment, right, to actually give testimony that this was really possibly a game changer.
Yes.
And so I really appreciated that.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
You must have experienced a lot of opposition to having this report see the light of day. How did you deal with that?
Look, as mandate holders, because we obviously want to deal with issues that are complex and relevant, they're by nature polarizing, right? I mean, if we were to engage on issues that are easy, then what's the point? Then you can go to, an academic institution to give you something. But I don't think this is why there are mandate holders and rapporteurs. It's really to help collective thinking around difficult issues. So I guess we are all used to the fact that when we produce reports, some will like them, some will like them less, some will detest them. And I knew that on this issue in particular, there's going to be a lot of very different views. All I can promise, and I have a clear conscience about, is that I've approached this with a lot of dedication and impartiality and independence, and I have really tried to hear from all sides and different stakeholders, and have even had them in the same room so that they can listen to each other, and that I've done my best really to give this issue justice. So on that front, I really have a clear conscience. But of course, it has provoked a lot of sort of reaction. But as I said yesterday, in the end, it's very reassuring to me also that when we speak about who is the most important actor to take into account, it's the survivors. And if they are happy with this report and they feel it's done justice to them, then I'm happy.
That's all that counts.
Yes.
Obviously, Collective Shout contributed to your report, and we were delighted that you'd been able to include us in the citations.
Yes.
How was it helpful to you to hear from civil society organisations like ourselves in your formulation of this report?
Look, very useful, and really thank you very much to you and to the many others that have provided input. I must say the input across the board was excellent. You can see that people have made a real effort and have sent very solid submissions. By the way, I've published almost all of them. They're on the website, so that others can continue to mine the information, because there's a lot there that I couldn't really elaborate on because we have a certain word limit to our reports. But I think it can still inform a lot of future pieces, not just by the mandate, but also by others. And you've enriched the perspective that I gained, particularly I would say, on girls. The whole part on, technology facilitated violence, I think, and the impact on society, the impact on girls, the hypersexualization of it, I think it was super important that it came out. So thank you for that.
Our pleasure. Thank you so much for your efforts, and it's just given us a great boost and encouragement in our work. So thank you to you on behalf of all of our supporters.
Thank you. Thank you so
much.
much. Yeah.